Hi, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, namaskaram, vanakkam. Welcome to Tapon Sandhya Sangam Zoom show on the Sunday, 23rd of February 2025. This is our episode number 161, and we propose about more shows on the go. Well, we are having a show on an important evening when there's an important cricket match on between India and Pakistan at Dubai in the Championship Trophy. We hope the better team will win this in the match today. Being centered is the topic to be discussed this evening by our guest speaker, Brindha Ganesh, joining us from Coimbatore. Being centered could be being focused as well. How should we remain focused on what we want to do, on what we want to say? All this will be discussed by our guest speaker as she joins us. Welcome to the show, Brinda. Well, as we shall begin the show with a prayer followed by the guest introduction. Thereafter, the guest speaker will take over, and on her completion, we will have an open session wherein we all can put our views, observations, feedback, and even ask questions. The guest will be more than happy to answer. And finally, we'll have it up with a vote of thanks. Prayer. Joining us from Bengaluru is Mr. P.A. Srinivasan, who will sing the prayer for us. Srinivasan, sir, kindly unmute your microphone and go ahead.
Radhe Krishna, am I audible? குனித்த புருவமோ கொவை செவ்வாயில் குமிழ் சிரிப்போ குனித்த புருவமோ கொவை செவ்வாயில் குமிழ் சிரிப்போ பனித்த சடையும் பவழம் போல் மேனியில் பால் வெண்ணீரோ இனித்த முடைய எடுத்த பொற்பாதமும் காண பெற்றால் மனித பிறவியும் வேண்டுவதே இந்த மாநிலத்தே மனித பிறவியும் வேண்டுவதே இந்த மாநிலத்தே காதலாகி கசிந்து கண்ணீர் மல்கி ஒதுவ தம்மை நெறிக்கு வைப்பதும் வேதம் நான்கிலும் மெய் பொருளாவதும் என் நாதன் நாமம் நம சிவாயவே நம சிவாயத்தை நான் மறவேனே கனவிலும் மறவேன் நினைவிலும் மறவேன் 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 சபாபதிக்கு வேறு தெய்வம் சமானமாகுமா சபாபதிக்கு வேறு தெய்வம் சமானமாகுமா தில்லை சபாபதிக்கு வேறு தெய்வம் சமானமாகுமா தில்லை சபாபதிக்கு வேறு தெய்வம் சமானமாகுமா கிருபாநிதி கிருபாநிதி இவரை போல கிருபாநிதி இவரை போல பரம கிருபாநிதி இவரை போல கிடைக்குமோ இந்த தாரணி தனில் கிருபாநிதி இவரை போல கிடைக்குமோ இந்த தாரணி தன்னில் சவாதிக்கு வேறு தெய்வம் சமானமாகுமா சமானமாகுமா ஒரு தரம் சிவசிதம்பரம் என்று உரைத்தால் போதுமே ஒரே ஒரு தரம் சிவசிதம்பரம் என்று உரைத்தால் போதுமே ஒரே ஒரு தரம் சிவசிதம்பரம் என்று உரைத்தால் போதுமே பரகதி பெற வேறு புண்ணியம் பண்ண வேண்டுமா பரகதி பெற வேறு புண்ணியம் பண்ண வேண்டுமா அரிய புலையர் மூவர் பாதம் அடைந்த அரிய புலையர் மூவர் பாதம் அடிந்தார் என்றே புராணம் அறிந்து சொல்ல கேட்டோம் அரிய புலையர் மூவர் பாதம் அடிந்தார் என்றே புராணம் அறிந்து சொல்ல கேட்டோம் கோபால கிருஷ்ணன் பாடும் தில்லை அரிய புலையர் மூவர் பாதம் அடைந்தார் என்றே புராணம் அறிந்து சொல்ல கேட்டோம் கோபால கிருஷ்ணன் பாடும் தில்லை சபாபதிக்கு வேறு தெய்வம் சமானமாகுமா தில்லை சபாபதிக்கு வேறு தெய்வம் சமானமாகுமா 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 Radhe Krishna. Thank you.
Sir, that was a wonderful rendition of the prayer song, giving a perfect start to the evening show. Thank you so much. And moving to the next segment of introducing the guest speaker. Well, Brindha is not new to us. She has been with us for a long time. But then for the benefit of new joiners and for the benefit of, and for the purpose of following the protocol and introduction becomes necessary, Mrs. Vijayalakshmi Nagaraj will do the honors. Vijayalakshmi Madam, please go ahead.
Good evening, friends. I'm very glad to welcome our guest speaker, Mrs. Brindha Ganesh, and all the members of our TAPOVAN Sandhya Sangam to the 161st episode. Mrs. Brindha Ganesh is one of the well-known speakers of our Zoom meet. She has already given lectures on spirituality for a couple of times through this platform. Today, she has selected a topic called being centered. Like you, I am also very anxiously waiting to hear what she is going to tell us about this topic. I am very sure it will be very interesting and useful to us as usual. Now it is time to introduce Mrs. Brindha Ganesh to our audience. One minute. Mrs. Brindha Ganesh was born and brought up in Calcutta, though away from Calcutta, but is still a Calcuttan at heart. She works for Indian Overseas Bank and is presently a senior manager at Coimbatore main branch. She is an ardent devotee of Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar Ji and a practitioner of Sudarshan Kriya. She has been associated with the art of living for more than 10 years and has become a teacher of the happiness program of Art of Living. Her husband and 2 sons are stationed at Bangalore. With this brief introduction about her, let me welcome and request Mrs. Brindha Ganesh to take over the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, madam, for the wonderful introduction. In fact, A Calcutan being a Calcutan at heart is nothing new. We are all in the same boat. So it's now time for the guest speaker to take over, ladies and gentlemen. As always, we will have a mic and mute so that we do not disrupt for the speaker. On her completion, we will have an open session. Brindha Ganesh, the floor is all yours now.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Tapovan, Sandhya, and Subramaniam ji for having me on the show once again. It's nice to be here with all of you. And thank you, Srinivasan ji, for that wonderful prayer. You know, with Shivratri around the corner. It's an apt song, prayer to have. Thank you, Vijayalakshmi ji, for that, again, that introduction. Thanks. It's an honor and privilege to be here, you know, and talking and sharing about what little I know or what little I have gathered from various other, you know, speakers, or, you know, I listen to some lectures and some books that I read. So just putting and collaborating together something and presenting to you. So today, let me also start with Guru Vandana, prayers to my Gurudev. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha, Hari Om. Gururadhiranadishcha Gurur Paramadaivatam Gurur Parataram Nasti Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mannatha Shri Jagannatha Madgurum Shri Jagadgurum Madatma Sarva Bhutatma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Okay. So, good evening again, everybody. Today, the topic is being centered. When the message for today's evening was floated by Subramaniam ji, I was wondering, no, centered, C-E-N-T-E-R-E-D versus C-E-N-T-R-E-D. Okay, so the American English vis-a-vis the British English. Most of us here in this today's live session have been brought up, you know, in the British English. We've all studied, most of us, you know, so many years back. But we've got adapted to the American style of English. We see the printed form, we see it being used by youngsters. So mentally, maybe we talk and write and think about British English, but we're used to American English in the written form. So somewhere we have chosen the middle path. You know? We have chosen the middle path. So what is being in the center? Being in the center means there is a periphery around somewhere. As in a circle, there is a central point, the center, and then there is a periphery of the circle. In a line, there is a middle point, and there are points to the left and points to the right. This reminds me, we start on a light note. This reminds me of that scene in Sholay, where Asrani is a jailer. He's going for a research for the prison. He says, आधे लोग बाएं जाओ, आधे लोग दाहिने जाओ, बाकी मेरे पीछे आओ. Okay, it sounded like a joke. At that time, we used to enjoy it. We still enjoy it. But when you think about it, there's some philosophy about it also. No? So people go left, people go right, to the extremes. There are very few people who tread the middle path. And when they do tread the middle path, it is a solitary path. It is a path. You choose your calling. You choose to follow your calling. You choose your own path and you walk it alone. So maybe that is how, you know, we see movies and all, but we think about movies and read books and all. Now, what appears in the light there is those people who have written the dialogues or written the things, they would have had somewhere the spirituality and the philosophy will be behind everything. You know, so just occurred to me now. So there are extreme paths there, but it's your path. In the Bhagavad Gita is literally the song of the divine. The Bhagavad Gita, we've read so many books. There are so many spiritual books, you know, the Upanishads, and we have the Narad Bhakti Sutra, we have the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. All these are told by sages and rishis who have maybe got the knowledge, downloaded the knowledge. But the Bhagavad Gita is unique in that it is spoken by none other than the Lord himself. It is the song of the divine. With his own lips, Lord Narayana has given us the Bhagavad Gita. And where was the Bhagavad Gita given? The Bhagavad Gita was given in the middle of the battlefield, right plumb in the middle of the battlefield. He actually took the chariot. We know that Lord Krishna was a charioteer for Arjuna. He took the chariot into the center of the battlefield, placed the chariot in between the two armies, equidistant, both the armies on either side, and that is where the Bhagavad Gita was told to us. And as after 5,000 years also, it's still relevant today, which is why we are talking on this topic. Maybe that is the Lord's way of telling us, that how to be centered. Only when you're centered, you can take the proper, you can take a proper aerial view, unbiased view of the situation. If you're centered, you can have an unbiased view of the situation. Otherwise, when you're taking one side, you tend to be a bit partial. You're doing it, so that is just to show that you're not taking sides, you're being totally centered. In life, what do we do? The world is full of opposites, of polarities. We face so many ups and downs in our life, like a yo-yo. Our feelings go up and down. Whatever feelings we go, we feel extremes, feelings, emotions on one side. But somewhere we have to take the middle path and tread the middle path. What is the Mahabharata after all? The Mahabharata is a war which is waged on between righteousness and unrighteousness, dharma and adharma. This Mahabharata is a constant war which is waging within us, within all of us, each of us as individuals. This war is being waged. Every time we have to take a decision, every time we take a decision, it is a decision based on what is right, what is wrong. So that constant oscillation happens. And if you look at the Mahabharata, it is a negative versus the positive. The negatives as represented by the Kauravas, who are 100 in number. And the positives as represented by the Pandavas, who are 5 in number. So it is generally when the war is being waged, the negative forces are more within us. But it is for us to see that the positive wins over the negative. And it does happen. If you're centered on the Lord, if you're doing your dharma, it is also said, somewhere that, doing your dharma, even if it is devoid of merits, it is said there in the Gita only, that if you do your dharma, even if it is devoid of merits, it is better than doing somebody else's dharma. So the Gita teaches us that, do your dharma. So what do? We have to marginalize the negatives, work on the positives, and try to achieve the higher sense. When that constant war between the negatives and the positives is happening within us, we marginalize the negatives. Consciously get rid of the negatives, work on the positives, and then get to where we want to be. In chapter 2, shloka number 54, Arjuna talks about who is a Sthita Pragya. He says, who's a Sthita Pragya? Sthita Pragya is who? Before that, in chapter 2, shloka 5, Lord Krishna says, Yahimna Vyatyantyete Purusha Shabha Samadukha Sukham Dhiram Soma Mrityata Kalpate. That is, he says, Arjuna, the wise one to whom pain and pleasure are alike and who is not tormented by these contacts becomes eligible for immortality. The wise one to whom pain and pleasure are alike and who is not tormented by these contacts, he becomes eligible for immortality. So what is Arjuna asked then? Who is Sthita Pragya? Who is Sthita Pragya? Is it, how does he look? How does he walk? How does he talk? How does it, Sthita Pragya? Who is a Sthita Pragya? Sthita Pragya is one who is established in wisdom, who is steadily established in wisdom. Now, wisdom, we all know, we learn, we hear things. So we are established. We know about the wisdom, the knowledge, but it comes and goes. It is not remaining steady in our minds, nor are we totally established in it. So a Sthita Pragya is one, he wants to know. Now, Arjuna is asking this question very impudently actually to somebody, to Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna is the very epitome of Sthita Pragya, of all the highest and the best qualities that is. But still he asks, and Krishna being Arjuna's friend also replies without taking offense that, he is asking him. If Arjuna looks at Krishna, he will know who is a Sthita Pragya. But he asks him, who is a Sthita Pragya? Arjuna is as a warrior of outstanding caliber. But he is inflicted with self-doubts, faced with, waging war against his own relatives, his own gurus, his own cousins. He is, and his Bhishma Pitama and all, he is totally filled with self-doubt. And so he is asking, who is a Siddha Pragya? Who is established? What does he do? So Lord Krishna says, one who completely abandons all the desires of the mind and satisfied in the self through the joy of the self, then he is called stable of mind, who drops all the desires, and then finds joy of the self in the self. So how does he say how to do this? And he said, you know what Krishna says, you don't have to do anything new, anything special. But all you do is change your attitude, change your way of looking at things. You do the same things with a fresh attitude. See it with fresh eyes. The same body, the same mind, same feelings, but only you see things a bit differently. How do? You spiritualize everything, your everyday activity, your everyday life. So this is what the Karma Yoga tells you, no? Spiritualize what you do. See, these are stability, this Sthita Pragya, this state has been attained by many people, many enlightened masters, many saints and seekers. Saints of a higher order have attained these heights. It is for us sadhaks, for us seekers to follow this as a practice so that it gets established in us. So there are living examples. There are examples of people past who have shown us the way of how to be and what to work towards. So again, now I'll just tell you one story of water. You know, there are some stories always in my speech. So there's one monk, long time ago in Tibet, an army was invading the country. At that time, the army was, all the villagers would flee the place before the army came there. They used to get to know when the army was coming. They used to flee the place because of the reputation of the general of the army. He was a very vicious person. He would kill ruthlessly. So once when the army came to one village, the entire village was deserted except for one hut. In that one hut, there was a small little monk. A small little monk was sitting there and meditating. Now the generals were so used to people being afraid of him, he was a bit taken aback. Not even taken aback, he was angry. So he comes to this monk. And then he asks him, do you not know who I am? I can cut off your head without batting an eyelid. He says, do you not know who I am? I can cut off your head without batting an eyelid. The monk smiles and says, do you not know who I am? I am the one who can have my head cut off without batting an eyelid. The monk said, I am the one who can have my head cut off without batting an eyelid. The general was shocked and humiliated, not humiliated, he was humbled, and then he left the place without harming the monk. So this monk is a prime example of what a Sthita Pragya looks like, what a person established in wisdom looks like and feels like. He knows that the self, the soul, the Atma cannot be cut off by a knife, cannot be wet by water, cannot be burnt by fire, cannot be destroyed. That is the true nature of the self. So that is what the monk knew. It's not easy for us to reach that state of the monk, but we can make attempts, to be there. Know that there is a center to be aspired for, and that's what is our real nature, and work towards that. There are examples of enlightened masters, like I said, and so we can learn from their life lessons and the ways and methods that they adopted, so that we can also be there. Lord Buddha also speaks about this Madhya Marga. We know that Lord Buddha's teaching is about the treading the middle path. Lord Buddha was also once meditating. He was in a state of meditation when he could hear some voices. When he heard those voices, there were two musicians, talking. So one said, you want to learn to play the ektara. So one is telling the other person, you want to learn to play the ektara, you learn to tune your string properly. It should neither be too tight nor too loose. The middle path, that is the right way to good music. The middle path is the right way to good music. Buddha instantly felt that, in spirituality also, that is what is required. The middle path is the answer to everything. So human beings, man is either too attached to things or he is too detached. Too attached to things in the world, material things, people, situations, objects, or He's too detached. People either eat so much and always think about food, or they're totally into self-deprivation, starvation. It is these extremes which lead us to unhappiness, no? We get pulled by our likes, our dislikes, raga, dvesha. It is all these things which are pulling us apart. We tend not to tread the middle path. I don't pull two away. When we like something so much that we are blind to its faults. Similarly, when we dislike something, we put a sort of barrier between us and the other thing. We don't even want to think about the pros and cons of that, what is happening. Lord Krishna says, when you completely abandon all desires of the mind and satisfied with the self through the self, then that person is of stable mind. So dropping the desire, we're talking about dropping the desire. But as man, as long as we are born on this earth, desires will be there. So how to let go of the desires? How to get rid of the desires? First of all, getting rid of the desires cannot be done. You have to let go of the desire. The desire has to drop off by itself. Desires come on their own. The thoughts also arise. We never know how a thought has arisen in us. A thought comes. Once the thought comes, then you're aware of the thought. The thought doesn't ask you permission. May I please come in? No. Once a thought comes, you know it's there. Similarly, the desires are generally, you get a desire when you see things or when you hear about something. So you see something, you desire it. When you hear about something, you desire it. So the sight of the sense of sight and the sense of hearing, this is what leads to desires basically. So you cannot stop a desire just by thinking of it or ordering it to go. It's not going to go away just like that. What do you do? Like when a child has a knife in its hand, what do? You offer it a toy or a chocolate, and then once it's getting hold of the chocolate or the toy, then you slowly take away the knife from the hands of the child automatically drops it. So similarly, you can let go of a desire only by desiring something which is higher, which is more, more worthwhile. Like knowledge, true knowledge of the self, God realization. That is how you can let go of the smaller desires. Now just imagine when you let's look back at our own lives. When we were young, we used to, hanker for toys and chocolates. As we grow older, the toys got replaced by maybe books, playing the guitar, playing some of this thing. And then as we grow into our teens, toys replaced by boys and girls, boyfriends, girlfriends. And that also we let go when we got married, got a spouse, children. So as and when you're maybe evolving, the desires are getting slightly higher and more cultured maybe, the smaller desires go off automatically, they go off. They get dropped off automatically. So how to let go of desire and achieve that sthita pragya is to substitute a higher desire for the lower desire. Substitute a higher desire for the lower desire. Focus. Subramanian sir said, I'll be talking on focus, not talking much on focus, but at least you focus. Focus your desires. Desire God. Channelize your love, your desire, your hankering, everything for the Lord. Sing the praises of the Lord. Think of the Lord always. So substitute the higher desire. Prasad, whatever you want to eat, you offer to the Lord first. So all your desires can be channelized towards God, self-realization basically, realizing the true nature of the self, the Atma. Then the smaller desires get dropped off automatically. So a sthita pragya is a person who, when sorrow comes, he is not totally dejected, nor he totally disturbed, utterly disturbed. What happens to us when we have even some slight problem? We keep on lamenting about our problem. We keep on thinking about a problem, going around telling everybody about our problem. So you're basically giving it more and more importance. But the sthita pragya will not be disturbed, unduly disturbed by the sorrow. And also when joy comes, he's not going to be jumping up and down about joy, not over ecstatic about good times. Good times and bad times come to all of us. None of us have gone through. There is nobody in this world who can say, I've been always happy. Neither is there anybody who can say, I've been always sad. Everybody has their ups and downs in life. To maintain that equanimity of the mind, when things are going well, and also to maintain the equanimity of the mind when things are going wrong. That is a sthita pragya. That is a person who is established in the self, because he has the knowledge that the Atma is above all of this. Polarities and opposites are there in life, no? Always, everywhere. Actually, Sage Kashyapa is the father of the Devas. He is the father of the Asuras also. Totally opposites, Asuras and Devas. Same father, coming from the same lineage, out of different mothers. The world is full of opposites. The world is full of polarities. In the Gita also, Lord Krishna gives us advice. Lord Krishna confuses Arjuna totally. Lord Krishna, we know, is a master of confusion. Through the confusion, he leads us to the ultimate truth. So he tells, no, you are not the doer. He tells Arjuna, when Arjuna says, how can I kill my brethren, my people? Then he says, you are not the doer. So drop the doership. You are not the doer. So what happens when Krishna tells Arjuna, tells us also drop the doership? He is actually controlling the ego. When you do some things, what happens? I am great. I did this. I did that. The ego comes in. The ego comes into play, and then what happens? And then once the ego comes in place, then what he says, Lord Krishna says, drop the doership. When you drop the doership, then you come to the state of surrender, Sharanagati. You can become Sharanagati is possible when you drop the doership only. If you hold on to the doership, very difficult to surrender. And so once you're surrendered, you feel totally at peace. You know that the Lord is taking care of you. Total surrender means totally giving everything to the Lord. At that time, you feel safe, you feel comfortable. But Lord Krishna doesn't allow you to be comfortable there also. What he does, he says, now you get up and act. You cannot rest. You get up and act. Act according to your dharma. So he confuses the duality, the opposites are there in the Gita. Once he says, you are not the doer, surrender all your doings, all your actions unto me. And then he says, but you get up and act according to your dharma. So wise is a person, no? Actually, in the Gita, it is said that a wise person who can see action in inaction and inaction in action. This can be elaborated by itself. Action in inaction. In every action that we do, you can see that somebody, that core value, core inner strength in you, inner person in you, which does not act, which is totally steady. So that is an inaction. And in inaction also there is an action. When you're sitting and meditating also, so many things are happening. When you're sleeping also, so many things, the bodily functions are happening. So a wise person sees action in inaction and inaction in action. There's one poem that I like about, that is Ralph Waldo Emerson. It's a poem called Forbearance. Forbearance also meaning same thing, sthita pragya, going with this thing. Here, once couple of lines, 4 lines I'll quote from that. He says, hast thou walked through the woods? Hast thou walked through the woods? Smelt the wood rose, loved the wood rose, and left it on its stalk. Hast thou walked through the woods? Loved the wood rose, and left it on its stalk. At Richmond's table, eaten bread and pulse. At Richmond's table, eaten bread and pulse, unarmed, faced danger with a heart of trust. And then something like that. And then it says, oh, be my friend and teach me to be thine. And loved so well a high behavior in man or maid, that thou from speech refrained, nobility more nobly to repay. Oh, be my friend and teach me to be thine. I used to love this poem when I was in college or something. Hast thou walked through the woods and loved the wood rose and left it on its stalk? What do? We go through a forest, we go through a garden. Even if it says, do not pluck the flowers, we like the flower, we pluck it. Here you are loving the flower, but you leave it there. And then at a rich man's table, eaten bread and pulse. A person who is impoverished, a poor person, not able to feed himself properly. At a rich man's table also, are you able to control yourself and eat only bread and pulse, rotis and sabji, or dal roti. And then unarmed, face danger with a heart of trust. Then he says, and from speech refrained, and loved so well a high behavior in manner made, that thou from speech refrained, nobility more nobly to repay. Sometimes what happens when somebody does something, we want to talk so much, no? Go on talking. You just nobility, more nobly, be my friend and teach me to be thine. So here the poet very beautifully says, you are so great, but teach me to be thine. Make me also of that caliber, that level, that I can be your friend. That's also forbearance, no? Knowing that, whatever the situation, if you can maintain your equanimity, maintain your level, how you, not feast, over feast, or starve, not be too loquacious, talking so much or talking less. Be always tread the middle path. The whole of Gita is about duality only. Gita is about bringing music amidst the chaos. Again, amidst the chaos of the battlefield, the Gita brings music. It brings joy where there is misery. When Arjuna is totally filled with doubt, self-doubts, of course, Lord Krishna first instigates the valor in him, and then creates more doubt and confusion. And finally, he teaches him. Right? In the Gita, he teaches him all the paths, the Karma Yoga, the Bhakti Yoga. And he tells him what he should do and what he should not do. The Lord makes us realize that life is full of fun and joy. Even though life has got lots of problems and predicaments, we are always in trouble. But still, amidst all that chaos, there is fun and there is joy. And that is how skillfully, only the divine can skillfully tell you this. Skillfully bring you that particular this thing. And how do we come to the center? Okay, be centered. Lord Krishna tells us be centered. But how do we come to the center? Just like Krishna gives the example of how the tortoise, withdraws its four limbs and its head into its shell when it faces danger. When the tortoise faces danger, it withdraws its head and its four limbs into itself. Similarly, we are distracted by this world through the five sense organs. It's the five sense organs which take us astray, or get us caught into this world. So he says, learn to retrieve your senses back into yourself. Learn to retrieve your senses. Maybe with a little bit of, self-discipline, you can withdraw yourself back into yourself, into the core of your being. When you withdraw and touch base with yourself, then what happens? You unite with the self. Your intellect becomes sharper. Your emotions become softer. We think, a person who is totally engrossed in himself meditating is going to be all, wishy-washy kind of person. But no, when a person meditates, when a person draws into themselves, draws his sense organs into himself, his intellect becomes sharper, his emotions also become softer. And then, it nurtures, actually meditation nurtures both your right brain and your left brain functions. So that perfect balance and that equanimity, the Sthitapragya actually comes into it. The mind is aligned. The mind is aligned. Your actions become fruitful and successful. Everything says. Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankar ji says, my Gurudev, he says, however nice something is and however ugly something is, however nice something is, however ugly something is, both will disappear into thin air one day. Everything will disappear into thin air. Knowing this, get back to yourself. You have to get back to yourself. One more story. There was a monk who was tormented by some temptations. There was a monk in a monastery. He was very tempted. Tormented by his own temptation. So he decides to leave the monastery. He says, I will leave my cell and go away. So he decides that he puts on his sandals. As he is putting on his sandals, he sees another monk also putting on his sandals. And he says, who are you and where are you going? So the second monk tells him, I am yourself. If you are leaving this place because of me, then you know that wherever you go, I'm going to come with you. I am yourself. You think you're going to leave. So your torment, that desires, the temptations are within you. So you cannot leave if the monastery itself, you're going to be tempted and, by desires, then where will you go without me? I shall be always with you. So what you do, winning over the self is important. Not running away from the self. Running away from the self is not the solution. You have to win over the self, win consciously over the self. Very, very important. When Lord Buddha was leaving the body, and his disciple Ananda was crying bitterly. He was crying bitterly. He was so attached to Buddha, and he said, "The light is going out from my life. What will happen to me without you? I shall be nowhere." Ananda was crying. "The light is going out of my life. I shall be left alone. Without you, I shall be nowhere." Then Buddha was fading. So he said very slowly, "Be a lamp unto thyself. Be a lamp unto thyself. You can believe in yourself. Realize your own worth." We should realize our own worth. Very, very important. Samasukha dukkha, it says, no? So we have to cultivate that, Sukham, dukkam, during sukh, during dukh, maintain that equanimity. There's one more story. How we have to cultivate it. There's one more story. During Sikandar Lodi's time, there was a great saint. His name was Zainuddin. He was a very young saint, realized soul at that time itself, very young, very rich and generous. He was young, rich and generous. He used to help a lot of people. But over the years, he lost all his wealth. He maintained his saintly nature, but he lost all his wealth. One day he was going through his papers, going through his stuff, and then he found some documents and he tore them up into pieces, small pieces, and asked one of his disciples to wash off the papers, small little pieces of paper. He said, "Wash them off." The disciple very obediently was washing all the papers. Then he asked him, "What are these documents? Anyway, you have torn them into pieces. Why are you asking me to wash them?" Then Zainuddin said, those days when I was rich, at that time I had lent a lot of money to those people in the village. They were rich gentry folk. I had lent them some money and they had given me some documents, the IOUs kind of documents, saying that, how the commitment to repay the debt. I had no intention of asking them for the debt back because I wanted to help them at that time, but they had given me those documents as IOU notes. He said, "Now that I am not in distress, now that I don't have any money, I don't want that temptation. If these documents are there in my hands, I do not want at any time to have these temptations that I may be asked to cash in on my debts to them. Neither me nor any of my successors. That is why I want that these papers be totally not only torn but also washed off, so it is not there at all." So he ensured that, that even though his position, monetary position had changed, his generous nature had not changed. So this is how we can cultivate certain things. The Sthita Pragya can be cultivated in this world, in these times of instant gratification. That is what we have, no instant gratification. I want this, I immediately get this. We don't even give ourselves time. There were times when we were growing up and we had, if we wanted a chocolate or a new dress, we had to wait for a month or two. We were told, that you will get it on your next birthday or whatever. But now this is a day of instant gratification. We want something, we get it immediately. It's on credit or whatever. So we have to cultivate tapas. Willingly going through the opposites is tapas. Tapas is willingly going through the opposites without complaining, without grumbling. That is when cheerfully going through the opposites. When opposites in life, ups and downs are coming. If you complain and rail about it, then it is not tapas. You should cheerfully and willingly go through the opposites. The other story, this is a well-known story. There was this king who was, the prince, his sons were not doing their princely duties very well. They were not learning properly. The ministers were not doing their work correctly. There was no rain in the country, so there was not much of, the crops were failing. So things were not going so well. At that time, one saint comes to his kingdom. So the king receives him with wealth, with honor, washes his feet, feeds him. And then he tells him, generally as we tend to do, take our problems to some higher authority. So he just told the saint, this is what is happening in my life. Things are not going well. So the saint writes on a piece of paper something and gives it to the king and then leaves. The king later opens the piece of paper. What is written? This too shall pass. This too shall pass. So after some time, the words of the saint does come true. The prince of the country, they start, realizing the responsibility. They're doing the studies well. They're horse riding, whatever they're doing, everything well. And then the ministers are also more judicious in their work. The rains have come, crops are abundant. The people in his subjects are all happy and doing well. So everything is going well. The king is happy. After 3-4 years, that same saint again comes to his kingdom. So the king this time again receives him with honor and washes his feet, feeds him and all that, and says, Maharaj, after you came, everything has been going well. Things have changed, turned for the better. You had written, this too shall pass. And it has actually happened. Now I'm very happy. My children are doing well. They've become responsible. Crops are there. My ministers are well. Everybody, my subjects are happy. So before leaving, the saint gives him another sheet of paper. Once he leaves, the king opens it and sees that it's written, this too shall pass. So this too shall pass. Good times, bad times, everything will pass. You have that equanimity, that knowledge that, everything will pass. And that is when you become a Siddha Pragya. That is when you become centered. Mahatma Gandhi, there's one more story about Mahatma Gandhi. When Kasturba was on her deathbed, she was dying. She just had a few hours to live. Then Gandhi ji called his aide Chaturvedi to read this para about the Siddha Pragya, the shloka from the Gita. He said, read me that. And then he said, now is the time, the test for your Bapu. He told Chaturvedi, this is the time, test for your Bapu. Now I need to know whether I will be established, whether I will be able to maintain my equanimity when my lifetime companion, my wife, dies. So such are the great people we have in our nation, who have lived. Not only have they talked, they have lived the talk, walked the talk. So he said, this will be a time when my knowledge will be tested. So one more story. Going with the flow. It's a Taoist story, It goes like this. An old man fell into a river. He accidentally fell into a very rapid river rapids. He fell into the river. The onlookers thought, and that river rapids led to a very deep and mighty dangerous waterfall. The river rapids went into a waterfall. Onlookers were feared that he might feared for his life, that he might not die. But miraculously, he came out alive and unharmed. Even though he fell into the river rapids and was washed towards the waterfall, he remained alive, unharmed. But asked how he managed to survive, he said this. He said, I accommodated myself to the water, not the water to me. That man said, I accommodated myself to the water, not the water to me. Without thinking, I allowed myself to be shaped by it. Plunging into the swirl, I came out with the swirl. This is how I survived. So beautiful, no? I accommodated myself to the water. Without thinking, I allowed myself to be shaped by it. Plunging into the swirl, I came out with the swirl, and this is how I survived. So life teaches us tough lessons. Life teaches us tough lessons. How we learn, what we learn from it is, and how we are shaped by it is up to us. Life teaches us lots of lessons. How we learn by it and what we learn by it and how we allow ourselves to be shaped by it is up to us. There's one more small, Bettina Bange. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her right. She was a professional tennis player. When she retired from professional tennis, she had a record of 0-17 against Martina Navratilova. 0-17. She lost 17 times to Martina Navratilova. When she was asked upon retirement, what did you learn from playing Navratilova? She said, how to shake hands. She said, I learned how to shake hands. So life teaches us many things. What we learn from it. Whether we cry about our bad record that I cannot even win once over Martina, no. How to shake hands. In the 12th chapter, Lord Krishna says, he who is free from malice towards all beings, friendly and compassionate, and free from the feeling of I and mine, balanced in joy and sorrow, forgiving by nature, even contented and ever contented and mentally united with me, who has surrendered his mind, sense, and body, has a firm resolve, and has surrendered his mind and reason to me, that devotee is dear to me. I'll just read again. He who is free from malice towards all beings, friendly and compassionate, and free from the feeling of I, mine, balanced in joy and sorrow, forgiving by nature, ever contented and mentally united with me, who has subdued his mind, sense, and body, has a firm resolve, and has surrendered his mind and reason to me, that devotee is dear to me. The Lord himself says this. He who deals equally with friend and foe. He who deals equally with friend and foe, and is the same in honor and ignominy, who is alike in heat and cold, pleasure and pain, and all those contrary experiences, and is free from all attachments. He who takes praise and reproach alike, contented and is full of devotion to me, that person is dear to me. So this is all the centered, or whatever the Gita says. No, we all know this, but just it's always nice to hear. No, he who deals equally with friend and foe. Are we able to do this? I like my person, I'm friendly with the person. I don't like that person, I'm curt, I'm rude. And he's the same in honor and ignominy, who is alike in heat and cold, pleasure and pain, and all other contrary experiences, is free from all attachments, who takes praise and reproach alike, controlled and is full of devotion to me, that person is dear to me. How does this happen? How do you attain the state that Lord Krishna is talking about? By grace. This happens by grace. You have to earn grace. Grace only takes you out of sorrow and misery. Your consciousness and grace. When you receive grace, your consciousness starts flowering. You become happy and pleasant. How do you earn grace? With knowledge and awareness. When you have this knowledge, when you have this awareness, all this knowledge has been given to us 5,000 years back, and we are all reading it. How aware are you about it? Every moment of your life, every time a situation comes up in your life, whether you are applying the knowledge, you don't even have to apply the knowledge. That awareness, oh, I am being, caught up in those extremes. But that awareness comes, immediately the centeredness comes. You can go off center. It is difficult. We are not Sita Pragyas. We are all aiming to be Sita Pragyas, to be centered. So you be there in the center. You go off center. How quickly you come back to the center, that is what is important. You go off center, come back. You lose your temper, you come back. You feel some certain likes and dislikes for somebody, become aware. Oh, I'm being too biased towards somebody. Come back to the center. So with knowledge and awareness, by coming back to the center again and again, punah, that is, then you can become dear to the Lord. Awareness and knowledge. And how does the knowledge happen? Knowledge, once you're in the knowledge applies. My Gurudev always says that just be in the knowledge. Punah, be in the knowledge will apply itself. You don't need to apply the knowledge. The knowledge applies itself. I'll end with one sweet story. As we grow older, what happens? There is a constant fight in our body, Back pain stops, knee pain starts. Once the knee pain goes, the frozen shoulder comes in. Each and each like that. Each body part keeps fighting with each other. Competition. Who's going to pain more? So once all these fingers, they were arguing with each other about who's great. So what happened? The thumb said, I'm the greatest, I'm because of the opposing thumb. That is what sets us apart from all the other animals. I'm this opposing thumb, and I am the sign of victory. When something is achieved, people say thumbs up. So I am great. The index finger says, I am the pointer. The index finger says, I am the pointer, and I am the guru or the guide. I show the way. The middle finger says, I am the tallest, and hence the greatest. The ring finger says, I wear all the costly gems, all the costly stones and gemstones are worn on me. So the little finger is feeling sad. Not really sad, it's just a bit quietly what it says that when you put your hands together and pray to the Lord, I am the one who's closest to God. He says, when you put your hands together and pray to the Lord, I am closest to God. So let us all do that. Let's just pray to Sri Krishna, Paramatmana, to bless us with Sthita Prajna, so that we may be dear to him. Thank you.
That was the thought-provoking lecture. It's a lot of practice. It doesn't come so easily. Being in the center is not too easy. We need to be swaying left and right. But coming into the middle is a very tough one. But then maybe by practice we will be able to conquer that area also. We'll all put our best foot forward and try to be in the center as you advise. So thank you so much for a wonderful lecture. Then open session, ladies and gentlemen. तेरा बाइक कनेक्ट सुनो अनिदा शुरू करो
Yeah. See,
कैमरा कैमरा
why
लगाओ
do we? Yeah,
कैमरा
why do we?
नहीं
Why do we desire anything? You are hearing me?
yeah
Why
brother
do we desire? Why do we desire anything? I mean, desire for an object or an event. Is it actually for the object or event? We desire actually happiness, isn't it? Getting object doesn't make any difference. Unless you get happiness, you will not desire for anything. At the time of desiring an object, also see, it not only brings happiness, along with happiness, it also brings problems to you. Dosha darshanam. There is a word called dosha. Dosha means harmful things. In any object of desire, it also brings lot of problems. So don't desire for happiness. Desire, that means desiring for the sake of object is wrong. You are all desiring for the sake of happiness. So you desire for that where there is no dosha. Why is that? That is only your Atma. You desire for Atma. That is totally free of any dosha. It doesn't bring happiness, but it takes you to that bliss. Neither happiness nor sorrow. This is the crux of the whole self-knowledge. That is what I feel. I don't know whether I am correct or not. You got that point, I'll be happy. Okay, thank you very much.
Happiness, it is said that happiness, bliss, love, bliss, peace is what is our true nature. So it's with the happiness, as Subramanian sir said, it's not in objects. It is not in objects, not in people, not in situations. It is within us. We have to tap into that happiness which is within ourselves. That is what is required. That is what we.
That is the thing. Within means that happiness is the Atma. Atma is happiness only. Desire for them. Instead of desiring for all these petty things, they come with only problems. So always see dukkha, dosha darshanam in every object of desire. Dosha darshanam in every object of event. It always has defect and problem. So desire for that which is free of any problem or dukkha. So always keep in mind dosha darshanam. You understand dosha darshanam? Dosha means what? Always see there is problem along with happiness it brings. So your desire for that slowly will come down. So desire, dosha darshanam, any object of desire or any object of event. That's why so far I'm just a small thing. People are all going for Kumbhasnan. Kumbhasnan. It is very happy. But how much problem is there? What happiness you are going to get? You see, there are a lot of problems going. Many people died. So much of stampede has taken place. So always there is a, so I won't go. Where there is dosha, that doesn't bring any happiness to me. That is the ultimate, what do you call, message I understand from all this study. Dosha darshan. Okay. Thank you very much.
I would just like to, refute you on this point, sir, with your permission. Dosha Darshana also takes you to that, Raga and Dvesha. It is always as opposite as Raga and Dvesha. Desire, if you try to see only the dosha and try to negate it, the nature of the mind is that it will go latch onto it more. So that samadukha, that equanimous nature, neither do you like something, nor do you look for faults also in it.
Okay.
Only then can you strike the middle path. Otherwise, that
middle path
will come.
Middle path
slowly
is
you have to
okay.
come to the middle path.
No. Why do you want to come to middle path? There is only one path. which brings happiness, and no other path. All other path is mixed with dosha, dukkha. This is the message of Lord Krishna. Again, surrender to me means what? Surrender to the knowledge he is giving, not to Lord Krishna itself. Understand? Surrender to me. You know, surrender to me, Lord Krishna says. You will surrender to what? You put a vigraha and do puja. Oh, I am surrendered to God. No. Surrender to the knowledge. For example, you have been taught by a mathematics teacher. You will surrender to a teacher. You will surrender to a mathematics he is teaching. Like that, surrender to me means surrender to the knowledge Lord Krishna has imparted to everybody. Always surrender to. That is the thing. What is that? Sarva dharma parityaja mamegam saranam varjamyativa. Not that living dharma. You follow the knowledge. That is it. Because he is teaching you how to be always in a what you call secure state, happy state, whatever it is. That is the idea. I have gathered it. Whether it is right or wrong, but I follow that. Whether you got it, my point. Did you get my point?
Yes, sir.
That is very important. People don't believe that. They say, surrender. I am surrendering to you today, surrendering. How many times you will surrender? Huh? Only one surrender to knowledge. 2 plus 2 is 4. That is knowledge. Always surrender to the knowledge, not to the person giving the knowledge. Guru comes and goes. The knowledge he gives, eternal. That is from Upanishad itself. Any guru comes and goes. But we have to worship that knowledge. That is, so you worship the guru because that is only a middle path. You worship the knowledge, and when you totally are what you call indulging or immersed in knowledge, automatically everything will happen what you desire ultimately in life. That is my only, whether I am right or not, I try to follow that from all these teachings. I don't know whether you got my point. If you get
Yes,
it,
sir, I got you.
I am happy.
Perfect.
If you get it, I am happy. Did you get that?
Yes, sir, I got it.
Okay. Very nice, very nice. Thank you very much. Thank you. Nice to
Okay,
interact with
Saraswati.
people who understand things. Isn't it?
Saraswati.
Yeah. Okay. I won't take time. Okay. Thank you. Subhu, thank you for giving me an opportunity
Thank you.
to say something.
It was an
Isn't it?
excellent session, very well explained. As Sir said, no, is we have to surrender, and that person they're already centered. For some people like us only, no, we are wavering. We have desires, we go here and there. So we have to bring back our desire. So total Sharanagati, as you said, no, we have to surrender to God. Total surrender is required. But sometimes we are not able to do, no. All people are not one and the same, no. All are not able to do that surrender, total surrender. So total surrender is very important. And as human being, we have desires here and there. Without desires, there is no life, no. So people will have, and there should be desires also. Without desire, there will be no improvement or anything. But it should be on the surface level. Should not go very deep. And you should not feel bad also. When you have some desire and it is not fulfilled, you should not feel bad for it. You should come back to your original position and keep centered. And once you are centered, once you have the total Saranagati, that means you are already centered. As Brindha said, no. Once we have to bring back. And sir, you are telling that total Saranagati is, once we do the total Saranagati, nothing is required. We are already centered. We know God takes care of everything. We need not go after behind anything. He is there and He is there to take care. That is very difficult to get unless you come to the center position, no. It is difficult to get to that point. That's Saranagati.
But Lord Krishna guarantees yoga kshemam vahamyaham.
Yes.
That is a guarantee. Yoga kshemam vahami aham. I take care of your yoga and kshema.
Once the
You have to
total
understand.
surrender is there, nothing is required. Total surrender is there, nothing is required. He takes care.
No. Total surrender to the knowledge.
Yes. Yeah, with knowledge.
When the
Surrender
knowledge is there,
with knowledge,
when you have got the knowledge of mathematics, you will solve any problem. Isn't
Yes.
it? If you, any mathematical problem for solving, you should have knowledge of mathematics. Any problem of life, you should have knowledge of what is the solely the knowledge that will solve the problem. That is only the knowledge Lord Krishna is giving. That is anyway. Okay, thank you.
This is very, very nice, sir. Everything nice session. Enjoyed a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Very nice as usual. And Mani sir, நீங்களும் ரொம்ப அழகா சொன்னீங்க. And Brinda always takes a very serious subject and then makes it very light by short stories. That is her speciality. And as usual, she said that way. I really enjoyed. And சித்தப்பிரஜங்கிறது ரொம்ப ஒரு அது நடுநிலைமை எல்லாரும் சொல்லிட்டா கஷ்டம்னு. அது really கஷ்டம்தான். ஆனா ஒன் திங், நம்ம கம்பேஷனேட்டா இருக்கலாம், இன்னொருத்தருக்கு ஒன்றும் யாரையும் மனசால ஹர்ட் பண்ண வேண்டாம். அது திங்ஸ் அது அதெல்லாம் நமக்கு ஒரு நமக்கே ஒரு சந்தோஷத்தை கொடுக்கும். நம்ம சந்தோஷம் எல்லாமே நம்ம டிசைர் பண்றோம், எல்லாமே சந்தோஷத்தை கொடுக்கறதுக்கு தான். கரெக்ட். அதனால இது இன்னொருத்தர் வருத்தப்படாம, இன்னொருத்தர் இன்னும் மனசு கஷ்டப்படுத்தாம இருந்தாலும் அது பகவான் அதையும் சொல்றாரு. ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஹெவியா சொல்றாரு, அப்புறம் முள்ளவும் சொல்றாருல்ல. அதனால okay, anyway, and I follow that only. I don't hurt anyone. I treated that I don't hurt anyone physically, mentally, and also emotionally. That's all. Thank you. Very nice, Brindha.
Thank you, Mani. Thank you.
Good.
Rajaram, sir.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Thanks, sir.
I think the purpose of the lecture has been served more than what is required, because it has created a lot of healthy discussions here and there. And that shows the audience has been being centered throughout the lecture. See, that is a success for the speaker. Congratulations to her.
Thank you, sir.
The desire பத்தி பேசுற போது நான் சொன்னேன் இல்லைங்க, desire cannot be easily given up but substituted. Yes, it is 100% correct. See, ஒன்ன விடுறதுங்கிறது ரொம்ப கஷ்டம், but we can change it for a better one. But again, that becomes a problem. அதை விடுறதுக்கு இன்னொன்று போகணும், அப்படி போயிட்டே தான் இருக்கும், வேற வழியே கிடையாது அதுக்கு. அதனால்தான் பற்றுக பற்றற்றான் பற்றினை, பற்றுக அப்பற்றி பற்றுவிட இருக்கு. எதையோ ஒண்ணு புடிச்சுட்டு ஒன்ன விடணும்னா கூட ஏதோ ஒண்ணு புடிச்சுக்கணும், முதல்ல விட முடியாது இல்லையா, கடைசியில அதையும் விடணும். அதுக்கு சொல்ற மாதிரி கடைசியில சரண்டர் டு தி ஃபீட் ஆஃப் காட், லோட்டஸ் ஃபீட் ஆஃப் காட் இஸ் த ஒன்லி சொல்யூஷன். இன்னொன்னு ரொம்ப அழகா மேடம் நடுப்புற சொன்னாங்க, அதாவது டிசைர்ஸ் இல்லாம யாருமே இருக்க முடியாது. இட் cannot be possible for any person to be without desires. ஈவன் நம்ம புத்தாவை சொல்ற போது கூட he wanted to give a very lofty message to the world. That was his desire. That is why he also suffered for so many years by doing tapas. அதுக்கப்புறம் தான் he came out with that solution. Desire is the root cause of all misery அப்படிங்கிற சொல்றதுக்கே அவர் டிசைர் பட்டார். அதனால தான் அந்த மாதிரி பண்ணிது. அதனால டிசைர் டெஃபினட்டா இருக்கதான் இருக்கும். ஆனா அவங்க இன்னும் மேடம் சொன்ன மாதிரி desire should not bring with it not only problems but also disappointments. See, ஒன்னு எதிர்பார்த்து நம்ம இந்த ரிசல்ட்டை எதிர்பார்த்து நம்ம பண்ற போது அது கிடைக்கலங்கிற போது people really become bad. See, that is where people always fail. See, வரலைனா ரைட்டு. That is why Lord Krishna says, do your duty but do not expect any reward. See, do everything. நீ பண்ணு, நல்லது கிடைச்சா நல்லது, be happy. Suppose what you expected don't happen, then also you don't be unhappy. See, you have done your job. That itself will give you lot of bliss. அதுக்கே நம்ம வேலையை நம்ம ஒழுங்கா செஞ்சோமா, அதுக்கே அது ஒரு பெரிய ஒரு that itself is a great fulfillment. அதோட நம்ம இருக்கணும், அது ஒண்ணு முக்கியம், ரொம்ப முக்கியம் அது. And any change should come only from within. நம்ம அடிக்கடி சொல்லுவோம், the example, முட்டை எக்ஸாம்பிள் நான் சொல்லுவேன். If an egg is broken from outside, it is used only to make an omelette. But if it gets broken from inside, a living chick comes out. அதனால any change that should come only from within. அதுக்கு introspection is the only thing. There is no other thing. அது பண்ணத்தான் போகணும். இன்னொன்னு அவங்க சொன்னாங்க, அதாவது ட்ரீட்டிங் போத் ஹாப்பினஸ் அண்ட் சாரோ as a same thing. எல்லாருக்குமே ஐ திங்க் எவ்ரிபடி வில் பி ரிமைண்டட் ஆஃப் தி ஃபேமஸ் போயம் இஃப் பை ரட்யார்ட் கிப்ளிங். இஃப் யூ கேன் ட்ரீட் போத் விக்டரி அண்ட் டிசாஸ்டர் ஆஸ் டூ இம்போஸ்டர்ஸ் அப்படின்னு ரொம்ப அருமையான வார்த்தை யூஸ் பண்றாரு அவரு. போத் ஆர் இம்போஸ்டர்ஸ். சி, ரொம்ப ஒண்ணு நல்லா நடந்த போது ஒரே தத்தக்கான்னு குதிக்க கூடாது, துக்கம் வந்த போது தோழக்கூடாதுன்னு சொல்றாளே, அழகா சொல்றாரு, போத் ஆர் இம்போஸ்டர்ஸ். சி, வந்த நேரத்துல ரொம்ப ஓவரா இது பண்ணாத, கிடைக்காத நேரத்துல தோண்டு போகாத அப்படிங்கிற ரொம்ப அழகா சொல்றாரு. அதனால அதுவும் ரொம்ப ரொம்ப முக்கியமான ஒரு பாயிண்ட் தான். நானே கூட பீயிங் சென்டர்னு சொன்னபோது இது ஒரு கொஞ்சம் லிவிங் த பிரசன்ட் தான். பீயிங் சென்டர்ட் இஸ் லிவிங் த பிரசன்ட். இட் இஸ் ஈஸியர் செட் தென் டன். எல்லாருமே சிலதெல்லாம் சொல்லிடலாமே தவிர நம்மளால இருக்க முடியாது, அந்த நேரத்துல அப்படியெல்லாம் இருக்க முடியாது. பட் எவ்ரி திங் கம்ஸ் ஒன்லி பை அபியாசம். எகெயின் பகவத் கிருஷ்ணரே சொல்ற, காத்து மாதிரி என்னால மனசை அடக்க முடியாதே அப்படின்னு அர்ஜுனன் சொல்றான். ஆமா நீ சொல்றது கரெக்ட் தான் ஒத்துக்கிறாரு அவர் he doesn't refute it. Yes, it is very difficult to control the mind. It is like a wind which cannot be controlled. But by அபியாசம், practice and அபியாசத்துல தான் அதை பண்ணணும் அப்படிங்கிறார். அதனால all these things have to be cultivated from the young age. இருந்தா ரொம்ப சந்தோஷம் தான். சின்ன வயசுலேயே இதெல்லாம் சொல்லி கொடுத்து எல்லாம் பண்ணா ரொம்ப சந்தோஷம் தான். ஆனா என்னன்னா காமன் மேன் தான் நிறைய வேர்ல்டுல இருக்கக்கூடிய காமன் மேன் தான் பர்சன்டேஜ் ஜாஸ்தி. அவளுக்குலாம் இந்த மாதிரி இந்த அளவு பெரிய ஒரு பிலாசபி இதெல்லாம் போறதெல்லாம் ரொம்ப கஷ்டம். அவளுக்கு சரி நம்ம காரியத்தை செஞ்சோமா, நான் நல்லவனா இருந்தோமா, நல்லவனா இருந்தால் நல்லது நடக்கும் அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு சிம்பிள் மெசேஜை பீப்புள் புரிஞ்சிட்டாலே ஐ திங்க் that will give lot of happiness to the entire world. Overall it was a very difficult subject, but நன்னா ஹேண்டில் பண்ணாங்க Mrs. Ganesh. All the best to her. Hearty congratulations. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Surela? All right. Thank you, Brindha, for your valuable time. Thank you, Vijayalakshmi Madam, for the wonderful introduction. Thank you, Srinivasan sir, for the wonderful prayer. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining the show. The recording will be uploaded to YouTube sometime tomorrow. Link will be provided. Kindly share the link as widely as possible. And that's a wrap up for all of us over here. Until we meet next, wishing you all goodbye, good night, and Shubh Ratri.